Comics are about stories, and stories are about other places.
A mirror to our world, sort of the more exciting way we could be. One of the truest forms of storytelling. Anything can happen there. The only limit is the pen and the imagination, and it's hard to say that in any other art form.
The first sort of escapist, kind of the true escapist comic, the American comics, someone gave me one, an uncle I think, or some alcoholic associated with a family, but he gave us this comic. I think it was something like Uncanny Tales, and it was an American comic that was had these sort of zombie pirates on the front, and the stories inside were sort of fantastical in nature, and usually had a horror sort of element. And what struck me about them is they always had these kind of twist endings. That was the first comic I really remember owning and wanting to keep, whereas before that, they were just things that you read and sort of passed on or binned.
Beano, Dandy, Topper, and Bees are annuals and whatnot, and I'd always be at my grandma's house if I went there and I could read those, and Or Wooly and The Bruins, and these really kind of old school DC, Thompson, Fleetway productions. And, you know, they all had these great characters, kids that I would never be like. I was a bit of a goody two-shoes as a kid. So to see these kids pulling these kind of shenanigans, you know, and go-karting down hills in these kind of gentler but slightly updated times was always quite exciting.
The Beano comics that had loads of characters in them. There was one that they still do now called the Numbskulls, which is like a bunch of weird little guys living in somebody's head. So kind of psychoanalyze that however you want. I like weird guys living in people's heads. But yeah, I mean, mostly the nerdy characters. I mean, that was true of like cartoons as well. So Peter Parker, you know, as well as being a superhero, he's a massive nerd. That's always a pull-in factor. So yeah.
Baby dust, drinky girl, you broke me out the box, you are my pencil. The first British comics were, and a lot of comics all over the world were for adults, were now adult readership. And, you know, satirical very often, you'd have strips in Punch and magazines like that. And the first published comics like Alice Loper's Half Holiday were for an adult readership. And this freelance journalist called Alfred Harmsworth, he saw two kids reading on these comics for adults, and they were enjoying it. They were looking at the pictures, and he thought, let's publish some comics for kids. And they just exploded. They just were really popular. They sold millions and millions and millions. Within a couple of years, this guy was a press baron, and he bought the Daily Mail, and he started the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror, which also ran the first newspaper strips, which are from these kids' comics. But yeah, so the British comic industry got taken over as the idea of comics for children. And it took till the 1960s when the comics of the counterculture, the underground comics, sort of reclaimed the medium as an adult entertainment. And I mean, they were very anti-establishment, they were outrageous, they were experimental. They fed directly into the mainstream, and they led directly to the current graphic novel boom.
I think they're very important, especially kind of in the way people view art these days. I mean, they allow for greater scope than any of the other forms. If you want to tell a story through film and you want to have some crazy things going on, you're restricted by budget, by resources, by technology. If you want to do it via prose, you're restricted by how many adjectives you can fit in that sentence, and it's hard to find them if you're not as talented as some.
They may as well dismiss movies or theatre or any other form of entertainment. I mean, comics as a medium for communication, for education, for entertainment, it's as viable as any other medium, and actually better for some things.
You might as well ask how important is painting or sculpture or or books. Actually, thinking about it, I suppose they are quite important now that I've put it like that, because it's about you know, enriching the cultural fabric of society with stories. And I think stories are important. Stories are how you pass on ideas and how you pass on values and morals. And, you know, I think my moral base is kind of premised or predicated on kind of the moral code of superheroes.
Like baby dust, drinky crow, you broke me out the box. You are my pencil, my inker and my colours. When I'm lost, I'm animated, moved along with grace and eloquence. You write my character so clearly in the past and future tense.
To quote MC Lars, the geek shall inherit the earth. You know, everyone's a geek of some kind. You know, there's football geeks, there are, you know, soap geeks, comic geeks. People can complain that it's for kids, but then what was everybody's favourite film of 2008? It was The Dark Knight. You know, I walk around town very angry because people are wearing Superman t-shirts and Batman t-shirts, which come from shops that, as a larger man, I will never fit into.
I guess my definition of a geek means you kind of almost depend on the escapism of comic books, rarely leave the house, you know, need that kind of interaction or lack thereof to make life even remotely bearable. That's more or less what I call a geek or a nerd. And not many people are like that, especially not people who read comic books today.
Yeah, some people are proud to be called geeks. But I think that's just to do with reclaiming the word and owning the word and owning what geek means to them.
This culture's everywhere. These are, if you want to laugh at superheroes, these are our icons. These are our legends. We don't have, you know, the Arthurian legends our, you know, ancestors had. We don't have kind of the war legends our parents and whatnot had. We have these kind of enduring icons coming through. I'm not really so much of a geek. It's just kind of embracing what's going to be important in the next generation. You know, who's to say the stories of Batman, Superman, Spider-Man and the like aren't going to be the fairy tales we tell our kids?
Comics, like any story, offer a kind of escape. There can be a pure escapism, i.e. an escape into a world of superheroes or spaceships or cowboys and Indians, or it can be an escape just in the sense of the way that a good story helps you or takes you out of yourself and out of your situation and allows you to enter the experience of created characters and worlds that are every bit as real, if not apparently more real, as the world and the people around us. So even the most serious novels are escapist in that sense. So escape is kind of, I think, at the heart of comicdom or comic fandom. But what that escape means to different people differs from person to person. I think if you like comics, they stay with you because, you know, as I said before, I really loved them as a kid, and I kind of grew away from them and got involved with more adult kind of pursuits of a sensory nature, and then kind of came back to comics, and I think I will enjoy them throughout my life, and I'll encourage my children to enjoy them and other children to enjoy them, and I encourage the people around me to enjoy them. And you know, I've got a comics library that, you know, I hope to preserve over the course of my life, and you know, if I have to defend that against the hordes of Philistines, then I will, to the death.
Riding a comic is very much like riding a bike. You have to start it, you have to keep going, and you have to end it somehow. A lot of people find the easiest way to do that is to start by thinking what is a film. Imagine moving pictures and then pick the best pictures of the moving and put them into words. Other ways are to find the kind of artistic things you like to do and add those to it. If you're thinking of somebody trying to explain a picture in words, have a picture in a word bubble. It's interesting. It's all about what you can do with it. Most importantly, you need a beginning, middle, and an end.